Hi, thanks for joining a new video. Today we have the unboxing of the Galaxy A17 in the LTE version. Let's begin. Let me emphasize for a moment that this is the LTE version. There is also another version, the 5G version, which we will be able to get at some point in the future. But for now, we are going to unbox this one, which is actually the most basic edition available. The launch price for it in Mexico has been set at 3,499 pesos. On the screen, you can see the reference price converted into dollars. But do keep in mind that the prices here are not the same as the prices there. Nonetheless, it is quite evident that this is one of the most affordable devices we are going to find. Below it, the only model will be the Galaxy A07. So we could say it's just the second step on the entire Samsung device ladder. Let's explore what it has to offer. We'll begin by removing the device from its box. And honestly, we already expect that there won't be much inside. In fact, there's nothing more here. In the lid section, we find another small box that seems to contain a bit more information or possibly some accessories. To start off, we locate the key needed to remove the tray the usual method. When we open this small box, we discover the remaining components, which include a USB-C to C cable, adding a modern flair. Samsung excels at this, and it also comes with the usual paperwork, so there isn't much else included. Although we appreciate that Samsung provides a USB-C to USB-C cable, we are disappointed that a charger is not included. It's a really very terse box, not much else to see around here. So let me start putting it away so we can focus on the phone next. Something interesting too is that Samsung offers insurance service. With Samsung Care Plus, you can take out insurance against theft or accidental damage. It is something that few brands offer. So I think it can be considered as a benefit that is obviously paid separately, but, well, not all brands offer it. Let's remove the phone from the cover so we can use it and discuss its specs. We already have the device set up and configured in such a way that it will allow us to meet its specifications and features. We will discover that it has a thickness of 7.5 millimeters and it weighs 190 grams. True to the whole Samsung trend, it seeks to be as thin as possible and as light as possible. Though that said, it doesn't seem to focus much on reducing bezels or alter the drop notch cutout, which already appears rather outdated when compared to the majority of cell phones available today. As a result, the front aesthetics are not as appealing as those of most Samsung devices in the lower price range. However, on the back and sides, it looks quite nice, even here, with the key island feature that gives it a distinctive Galaxy hallmark. Nevertheless, it doesn't provide any water resistance. In fact, it seems to lack Gorilla Glass protection, but I'll confirm that 100% in the video review. The screen measures 6.7 inches diagonally, featuring full HD resolution and Super AMOLED technology. It also offers a 90 Hz refresh rate, making it an excellent screen for its price range. Most entry-level manufacturers focus on high refresh rates with IPS technology, but Samsung opts for AMOLED, providing much higher contrast and offering various color modes in this case. The truth is a screen that looks pretty good and much better than the Galaxy A07. So if you want to make that small leap from the second step in the entire scale of Samsung, you will particularly notice it at the screen level. This panel looks significantly better. Unfortunately, it only has a single speaker at the bottom for mono sound. In this case, it lacks a headphone jack, which is a feature that, for now, will only be available in the Galaxy A07. In the most basic version of Samsung, I would have really liked to see a headphone jack included here. The sound is simple, predominantly mid-frequency. The front camera will be 13 megapixels with f2 at 0 aperture and fixed focus. There you are, seeing a photograph captured with this device. A good balance between lights and shadows, and also gives us a fairly good level of detail, controls noise better compared to the Galaxy A07. If you want to take it as a reference, although it is not an image with too much contrast either, it is more or less basic but with a good level of detail. On the back we will find a system of 3 cameras. The main one is 50 megapixels with aperture f1.8 and optical stabilization. Then there is the ultra wide angle camera with 5 megapixels and f2.2 aperture. And finally the 2 megapixel depth camera with f2.4 aperture. Obviously, this camera is not going to represent too much utility or anything like that. But what does catch my attention is that if they have integrated ultra-wide-angle camera, which is something that most manufacturers, even in more expensive devices, does not integrate. So it seems to me a good combination to have main lens and ultra-wide angle in a device of this price range. It will be one of its highlights. But okay, let's take a quick look at the pictures. Here you are looking at the ultra-wide camera, which indeed does not have a very high level of detail, but I insist that already the fact that it offers ultra-wide camera in this category is very good. The main camera offers a good amount of detail, and in this case, even at 2x zoom, it still appears decent. When you go to 4x, I'd say that's the limit where the zoom remains acceptable, because although it allows you to reach all the way up to 10x, I don't think you get a good quality image at that level anymore. The front camera is capable of recording at full HD with a frame rate of 30 frames per second. As for the back, we have exactly the same resolution for both the ultra-wide camera and the main camera. And note that curiously, if it allows us to make dynamic switching between lenses, even allows us to rotate to the front camera. Hey, that's a pretty advanced experience. Even more expensive devices don't have those options. As for the operating system, you know Samsung has its strongest points here. It's already getting its One UI 8 update with Android 16 and has 6 years of promised updates. This is truly brutal. There is simply no other device in this segment that will provide you with this level of comprehensive software support. This fact alone makes this device one of the top choices for anyone seeking stable software, with the added benefit of receiving multiple updates that reflect a high level of user care. Additionally, Samsung clearly offers us some excellent additional features, such as the modes and routine section. This section includes numerous automation options for your cell phone. It is something you simply do not find in other cell phones, and seeing it in a device at this price point. Truly charming. It is important to note that in this case we also have the option of edge panels, unlike the Galaxy A07, which did not offer this option, at least not when I began testing it, but definitely that feature also helps, because you can open applications in a floating mode or even in a split screen mode. In short, in that sense, the experience will definitely be quite advanced for this particular cell phone. While it doesn't include Bixby, it does offer the Galaxy Avatar feature, for instance. It also includes the multi-window section with various interactions, plus the choice to enforce multi-window view across all apps. The software is quite comprehensive, though it lacks every option available in the priciest Samsung phones. However, it still provides a substantial number of those features found in the higher-end models. The battery, without surprises, it offers 5,000 The battery capacity with support for 25 watts, charging with the charger sold separately. This is probably the most disappointing segment of Samsung, because most phones are increasing their battery capacity. And also its charging power with chargers included in the box. So this will be one of its weakest points. Although Samsung through software achieves a fairly significant optimization that usually gives us a good autonomy, but we will see those tests in the video review. Finally, when we talk about performance, it includes 4 GB of RAM and 128 GB of storage. I believe that the RAM might be quite insufficient, that's the impression I have, although we will need to see with One UI 8 just how optimized the operating system can be with 4 GB of RAM. Some generations ago, having this amount of RAM was definitely a very poor experience. We will see in the tests how it performs. Regarding storage, 128 GB I think is fine. But most manufacturers are betting on having larger storages, although we would have to see what speed they offer us, because remember that sometimes it is very large but very slow storage. In the case of Samsung, apparently we'll find a small balance. Fortunately, if you can put a micro SD card up to 2 terabytes, so that will definitely be another of its most striking aspect. And finally, the processor is the MediaTek Helio G99. No surprises here. A processor that is already ultra used in the entry range, even in cell phones a little more expensive, then I think it is acceptable. It will not be the most powerful in its segment, but competes quite decent. Most phones in this category incorporates the same processor. In Geekbench, it gave us 726 points in single core and 1,946 points in multi-core, while in Antutu it reached 5,23,994 points. It definitely won't be the most powerful device you've seen, but for the price range it seems to me that it can become quite competitive because of the screen issue for having an Ultra HD cam. Wide, for the software above all. It has strong arguments to compete. However, in the video review, I will provide you with more details and share test results. For now, we have come to the end of this video and I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, feel free to let us know and we'll see you next time.